Photosynthesis is the process of converting light energy from the sun into chemical energy in the form of organic molecules. It occurs in two parts, the light reactions, which occur in the thylakoids, and the Calvin cycle, which occurs in the stroma. The light reactions are the first part and happen in the photosystems across the thylakoid membrane. These reactions produce oxygen, reduce NADP+ to NADPH, and convert ADP to ATP. First, a photon from the sun is absorbed by chlorophyll pigments in photosystem 2. This energy passes from pigment to pigment until it reaches a reaction center and excites electrons. These electrons are now in a high and unstable energy state, therefore they can easily transfer to neighboring acceptor molecules. This transfer of electrons is then replaced by electrons from water that oxidizes, forming oxygen molecules and hydrogen ions. The high energy electrons are transferred down the electron transport chain where they become more stable. Energy is being released and used to pump hydrogen ions from the stroma into the thylakoid lumen, forming a proton gradient. Hydrogen cations go down the gradient into an ATP synthase enzyme to convert ADP to ATP through photophosphorylation. The high energy electrons that move down the ETC and are more stable will reach photosystem 1, where they will be excited into a higher energy state from absorbed light energy and passed again to acceptor molecules. Eventually, the electrons will transfer to the molecule NADP+, which will reduce to NADPH by the addition of a hydrogen ion. The Calvin cycle is the second part of photosynthesis and is also known as the dark reactions because it doesn't require light to function. The cycle uses the ATP and NADPH produced and transferred from the light reactions and CO2 to produce glucose. The Calvin cycle has three stages: carbon fixation, reduction, and regeneration. The first stage is carbon fixation. CO2 enters through the stromata of chloroplasts and diffuses into the stroma. An enzyme ribisco acts as a catalyst for a reaction between CO2 and the molecule RUBP, ribulose biphosphate. This reaction forms a 3-carbon compound called 3-PGA. Next is the second stage, reduction. ATP and NADPH convert 3-PGA into a different 3-carbon compound called G3P by donating their electrons, thus reducing 3-PGA into G3P. As a result, ATP and NADPH are converted to ADP and NAD+, and return to the photosystems to be re-energized. 6 molecules of G3P are formed. 1 exits the Calvin cycle and is released as glucose, and 5 are recycled in order to regenerate the 3 molecules of RUBP. The last stage is regeneration. The CO2 acceptor RUBP is regenerated by the 5 molecules of G3P and some ATP in order to start the cycle again. It takes 6 turns of the Calvin cycle to make 1 carbohydrate molecule like glucose because it has 6 carbon atoms. The products of the light reaction during photosynthesis will become the reactants used during the dark reactions in order to form carbohydrates.